Guys, we're gathered here today to send off something that a lot of people were excited for.
And when the broken-hearted people living in this world agree, there will be an answer, let it be.
But sadly,
Really, a lot of people?
does not live on. You're ruining the sermon. It did not live on, everybody.
Chance that they will see. There will be an answer, let it be.
It did not live on, everybody. Please, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, this is now our Christian channel. We send off Stadia. Okay, we are here to talk about a relic. Okay, Indiana Jones, please don't bring out another one, okay?
You're too old.
Chewie, is that you?
Stadia survived by getting in the fridge. That's how it lived on, okay? So obviously Stadia had a pretty rocky launch.
Yes.
I think it's pretty fair to say that this thing should not have been released in the state that it was in. Most of the reviews agreed that this was interesting tech, but it really was just not ready. Paul Tassi of Forbes writes, I may have been a Stadia skeptic going into this test run, but I was willing to give it a chance, but this has been a catastrophe from start to finish during my testing phase, and the problem is that even if it did work flawlessly, which it absolutely doesn't, the entire model seems doomed from the start.
Tom's Hardware says, if you have a gaming PC and want to tinker with settings, Stadia isn't for you and may never be. If you have a console, you already have Stadia's lineup of games available to you, minus Guilt.
I don't know what that is.
I don't know what Guilt is.
Anyway.
Maybe we're saying that wrong. Who knows?
It's a Catholic thing.
However, console players wanting the flexibility to play on other devices may be swayed, but for now, both PCs and consoles are still superior feature-filled options.
The Verge writes, there's no reason anyone should buy into Stadia right now. Google has made sure of that, partly by undelivering at launch and partly with a pricing scheme that sees you paying 3 times for hardware, for the service, for games, just to be an early adopter. Now look, to be clear, obviously there are some more positive reviews that are like, okay, the tech works fairly well, and
But
we
this
had
is
a good
Laymen
time.
Gamon,
We're not
okay?
going to focus on those.
We're not going to
guys.
focus on that.
That's
Talk
right.
about the bad reviews, okay?
Let's have a laugh at your expense.
But I think that's what's critical with Stadia, the idea that this should not have been released at this time. This was an early access. It was like the AAA gaming of games consoles, right?
Yep.
It was released before it was ready. They charge you for it and charge you a lot.
Yep.
And, if it works, good luck.
It was the Bethesda.
Congratulations.
It's the Bethesda of consoles,
That's right,
everybody. That's
nice.
exactly what it is.
Everybody hates you. Everybody wishes that you were dead.
Regardless of all these negative reviews, people did pick up Stadia. They got it and they're like, let's give it a crack. And I guess one of the biggest games that they tried it out with was Destiny 2,
Yep.
which had obviously just made its move from Activision to independence, and it's obviously was also available on Steam. There was a
changes.
lot of interest in this game. A lot of people were very pumped to get their hands on it, and people started playing it.
And then we got some information from Paul Tassi, right, showing that when it actually launched on Stadia, it was getting around 19,000 daily people playing, right? Since then, just over a month later, it's now down to 8,020 people, okay, on a daily amount. That is crazy to see.
very
60%.
Low.
Is that 60%?
60% drop.
That's
Especially
a
when
lot.
you see the other PC numbers. You've got PC 437,000, PS4 435, and Xbox 313.
And those numbers are still holding up from
They
that
are.
month before.
Correct. I mean, you've obviously seen some player drop off versus before, for sure, but not to the same degree, nowhere near it, in fact, which obviously indicates that. Look, I'm sure there were going to be lots of Stadia tourists. People who thought, I'll just give it a look and see what it's like and whatever
Sure.
else. But I'm sure there were also some people that were like, I'm going to play Destiny on Stadia. And a lot of those people clearly have not stuck around.
Sure.
The only other data point we really have to tell how Stadia is doing at this point is the Google Play Store, which kind of shows the number of times the Stadia app has been downloaded. The app is required to use Stadia because you need to buy games on the app instead of buying them through the Stadia
TV.
interface.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's been downloaded 100,000 plus times on the Play Store, and that number doesn't change until it reaches 500,000. So right now it's somewhere between 1 and 500,000
Could be
installations.
499,000. It could be 101.
That does
okay?
not include any Apple installations as well,
True.
so we should make that point. But it does include people who's installed it multiple times. So if you've deleted it, reinstalled it, you've installed it on multiple devices, etc.
Yeah.
I don't think there are a million people in the world that own Stadia. In fact, I'm going to guess that there's a lot less than that who have bought into this platform.
I know.
And that's not very encouraging.
It's not. And I know that before, like, everyone had an Apple phone, but now I think, it's pretty 50-50, right?
It is actually 50-50.
So we can assume, really, not really, that maybe the Apple figures could be quite similar in terms of the Stadia download rate from the actual Android store. But, that begs the bigger question here, like, what is there to be excited for anyway to bring more people to download, Stadia on your phone or on your TV?
I think that's a good point. In fact, I actually spent last night just sort of like cruising through the Stadia subreddit, because that's when you're going to get your most encouraged people, the most enthusiastic, optimistic, whatever. And even they were sort of indicating that they're not particularly psyched for the future of this platform.
Yeah.
They're very worried about the number of releases coming down the pipe. We do know that we have stuff like Doom Eternal and Cyberpunk and Baldur's Gate. Those bigger games are apparently locked in. We'll come back to that point.
Yeah.
But there just seems to be a general shortage of other smaller titles that really kind of create the lifeblood of a flourishing console ecosystem.
Sure, but look, there are some big titles also, Watch Dogs and Borderlands 3, for instance, and whatever, right? There are some big titles that are coming out this year, and
Borderlands 3 is already out.
Borderlands 3, of course, is already out.
Baldur's Gate 3.
Baldur's Gate 3, I should say. So.
They look similar, Sam.
They do, of course, especially when we're looking at Whiteboard. But it is going to be interesting to see if these big titles do get more people there, or if the engine of it needs to be more smaller titles.
Yeah, and I think as well, we have to we can't assume that these games will actually get released on Stadia. So, for example, Bethesda is yes, we're big into Stadia, we're doing it. Doom Eternal does not, if you go to the Bethesda website, it does not list Stadia as a platform on the Doom Eternal website. Same with Cyberpunk right now. They show you all these options to purchase and pre-order the game on the other platforms, and they sort of show that their presence. They don't show anything for Stadia.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like my girlfriend's in Canada thing. Google's oh yeah, we definitely have cool games coming. And then you ask the games themselves, and they're like, that's not.
I don't know, man.
I don't know. Look, he's not. I try and make him think I'm coming to my platform, but I'm really not. Do you know what I mean?
The thing is, right, some trailers and some websites will sometimes have Steam or Epic Games in the corner of things that they are releasing. But there are, of course, some games that will only show PC, PS4, and Xbox and Switch. It doesn't necessarily have to go into the platform that it's going to be on PC. So who knows if that is an indicator that there is a bit of trouble with Doom and Cyberpunk when it comes to coming to Stadia. I hope it does still come to Stadia, though.
I think so, because obviously these people paid money for something that they deserve to get, the thing they paid for. I think there's a bigger challenge, though, in relation to just general third-party support. You do have some third-party presence on there, for sure. You have got Bethesda, you've got Ubisoft, you've got Square Enix, you've got a few others, right, for sure. But you are missing some big hitters on that. You are missing Capcom, for example. You are missing Activision, Sega. Most importantly, you are missing EA. Now, I know we all hate EA, I get that, whatever else, but the reality is, when it comes to third-party games, having sports titles on your machine is a make or break. It's one of the reasons why the Wii was not successful, because it wasn't able to get lots of third-party support, in particular EA, who really stood back from the Wii U. The Wii was successful, sorry.
I was going to say,
you're a fucking idiot.
The Wii U.
Yeah.
And so without that support from the likes of EA, bringing more casual gamers to the platform, it's going to struggle more generally, right? And right now, EA have their own plans to set up their own streaming service.
That's the thing, you see. So they've got their own plan. So I understand, regardless of how successful Stadia might be in a lot of these publishers' eyes, why would they do that? They've got their own thing that they're trying to cook away at, and also Microsoft has also not have any games on Stadia, and that also makes sense because, hey, they're looking to also do Project xCloud. So in those particular two publishers and console, I get why they wouldn't be there. But it is worrying to see other ones like Capcom and Activision, all that kind of stuff, big publishers, have not jumped on the Stadia train. And that might be because they're just looking back and going, okay, the reviews were terrible, let's just see how this thing goes, But you're right, without EA, a lot of casual people do jump on for the FIFA and the Madden, whatever. That will have a big effect, I think, on Stadia.
Yeah, I think the general point about competition is another one that I'd be very concerned about. This year, we're going to see the release of Project xCloud, which is, from a business model perspective, just a better product. It is. It's just better that you don't need to buy all of this shit all the time. You can just pay $10 for Xbox Game Pass and do it, or you can use your existing library of games. That's just
And
better.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, the offering for 2020 on Stadia is, what, 20 games? The moment Project xCloud drops, it's like, here's 100 or 200
Thousands.
games. Heaps of games,
Yeah.
like, straight away.
So,
you know?
and we're also seeing the release of 2 new consoles this year. We're also seeing, like, the next gen of consoles, plus the Switch is rumored to be getting an upgrade this year, etc.
Yeah.
I just can't see how Stadia becomes a
Yeah,
thing. Like,
yeah.
if I was Andrew Wilson of EA, then, like, I would be like, no, thank you.
What was that, Chuck?
I don't know. I don't see the business case for it. I would not be, because it costs money to port your games to Stadia, right? I would not be shoveling money into this platform to port my games there. Like, I don't see it. Do you know what I mean? I don't see a path back for Stadia from all of this, because I don't see how the market is underserviced or their product is any better. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that also PlayStation's looking to do their own streaming thing too. This is going to be
Yes.
streaming central, and you know, you've got 20 games coming out. I think some of them are great, but you know, there's a lot of games that aren't going to be hitting Stadia. And if you've got Project xCloud and PlayStation and EA all jumping in, you're in trouble, Microsoft. Is this going to be the Google Glass? Oh,
Did you say Microsoft?
Are you in trouble, Google? Is this going to be the Google Glass? That's the question.
KilledByGoogle.com is
I
going to
think
get it.
it's
It's
gonna
like it's like warming up its servers
It's
for a
already
new
ready.
edition on the list. It's ready.